Man, huge miss by me. We should have had Gotta Fly Now playing, the Rocky theme song. How are you tonight, John? Looking strong, knocking out stupid Christopher Ray.
Yeah, I can't believe you found the photo with me with that tattoo because I had that removed 20-something years ago.
Back
So,
in the day.
yeah, I had to have that removed. But
Pretty good, right?
so now, fantastic, fantastic. I forgot what the kind of shape I was in back in the day. But
We've been on a roll here with you. Like typically, the John Cullen Investigates. First of all, most people watching know that Fridays, you and I are doing a sponsor exclusive show that people can watch on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I've also recently added odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth and crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. But I want to make sure that people know that it's important that they support the co-hosts on the show. John, you've been one of the longest standing collaborators of Crowdsource the Truth. People who have been with us for years and years know that you were working so hard on Las Vegas. You found things, and in my view, John, nobody else has given as sensible or comprehensive an explanation for what happened in Las Vegas on October 1st, 2017. And it's unclear to me if we can really talk about that on YouTube. So obviously in the sponsor exclusive segment that people will be able to watch in less than half an hour, we're going to get in depth on that. But what are we going to be discussing tonight?
Well, it seems that there's a number of stories this week that if you look at them with a critical eye, you sort of wonder, well, where are these stories coming from? And so we're going to take a close look and see, is Christopher Ray, leading from a position of strength right now? Or are these guys on the ropes? Because I think that the citizen journalism phenomenon, regardless of who, well, they don't like it at all. And regardless of who you follow and who you like and who you trust and who you don't, at the end of the day, there's a number of us who are publishing findings that these guys who are on the ropes would really rather we didn't, right? And I think you and I are part of a select group of people who continue to publish things. And when I say you, I mean you and your team, meaning Charles and Lee, and the work that you've done with David, and the work that you've done with the
there's been so many different co-hosts.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So I mean, you've done so much work with so many different people, and that work really alienates these guys. And
they don't like it.
No, and in particular, the work that Charles does, the work that I do, the work that Lee does, really alienates them, because it's almost like in baseball, you've assembled a team that just keeps fielding the news. In other words, the news just keeps coming to us, whether the story comes to Charles and it's something to do with some sort of charitable organization, and Barack Obama, Hillary, what have you, whether the story comes back like this week, the FBI released new information about the Vegas shooting and Stephen Paddock out of left field.
That's unbelievable.
So if I'm your guy on second base, I've got that one.
That's right.
Right. And then,
exactly.
Right. And then, a year ago, we've got this Russia-Ukraine thing. Who better than Lee Stranahan to analyze that phenomenon? I mean, there probably isn't anybody better than Lee Stranahan in the United States. So the fact that you've assembled a team like this that's been able to field the most recent news stories for the last 5 or 6 years, I think that's what has these guys on the ropes. And I think that that's why you've been inundated with what appears to be the GEC's legal hit team.
Lawfare.
Their lawfare team that just ruthlessly will engage you to the point that they'll drive you into bankruptcy if they can.
Well, that's what they're
So
trying to do. It's a similar
yeah,
play. This is what they're doing to Donald Trump. It's just it's relentless pressure. I mean, obviously,
mhm.
anything subjected to constant pressure. They say that raindrops made the Grand Canyon. So, I mean, if you have billions of dollars and hundreds or thousands of people to throw at something, and that something is one person or one organization, I mean, you look back, look at where we were at this time in, say, 2016 or 15, before the election, where Trump came down the escalator. You had Project Veritas there. You had InfoWars. Look at what's happened since then. InfoWars has been pummeled by lawsuits, the Sandy Hook lawsuit, and I think Alex Jones, there was a judgment, I think it was like $900 million or something absurd like that. Some crazy, unrealistic number. I have no idea what is happening with InfoWars or Alex Jones as far as how they're going to pay that. But then you look at Project Veritas. What happened with that? It's almost like somebody specifically targeted these things, infiltrated them, crushed them from the inside. I don't know, John. It seems like similar to what they've been trying to do to crowdsource the truth. And some people have emailed me and they say, well, you know, you don't have all the guests that you used to have and everything. And some of those guests have been found out to be social engineers. I mean, we had Larry Gators. Everybody knows the tall dope that I started out with. There's a lot of people who have shown themselves to be infiltrators and liars, and I just wonder if that hasn't gone on at some of these other places. It seems like these narratives, I don't know, are they on the ropes, John?
Oh, I think they are, and I'm going to show you the evidence that leads me to believe that. In other words,
Let's see
why
it.
why would I think that? Yeah, so why
Yeah.
would I think that? So why don't we jump into the deck
Whoa,
with our
you're on
YouTube
fire
audience?
on Twitter.
So something happened. So we want to get to the root cause of
Yeah.
if the feds are on the ropes, why are they? In other words, why are they doing this? Why are they what's going on? So something happened in the last week. I picked up about 700 followers, which is a 7% gain
That's
on my
really good.
yeah, 7% in 1 week. So if I could get that in an investment, that would be nice. So 7% return in a week would be good. All right, let's jump ahead to the next slide if we can. So the next slide is 3 years ago today.
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago today, where were we? This was the En Shengdong Johns Hopkins map on March 31st, 2020 at 11:11 a.m. All right. And when I ran this at the time, there were a little over 3,000 people dead in Wuhan, and no other city has 25 people dead. That's it.
It's really amazing. So this was 1 year ago.
This is 3 years ago.
Oh, 3 years.
This is
Right,
2020.
right, right.
2020.
Wow. It's
This is
hard to believe that
so
much
this
time has passed.
All right. So 3 years ago today, this is how the outbreak was being portrayed by Michael Bloomberg's Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. So the Michael Bloomberg Johns Hopkins School of Public Health on this day 3 years ago was showing you exactly how many people were dead in each one of these locations.
Mm-hmm.
And according to them, the second location in China with the most people was Henan, with 22 people dead. Hong Kong isn't even here. We don't even see Hong Kong. We see Chongqing, but Beijing, 8
Oh, here we
people.
go.
You got 8 dead in Beijing. Yeah, right. 8 dead in Beijing.
Yeah.
So that's where we were 3 years ago today. Now, the next slide is where were we 3 years ago this week as it pertains to that other pandemic, the outbreak of that other respiratory infection, the one that ended up as the number one comorbidity of COVID, right? So the number one comorbidity of COVID, according to the CDC, is something called influenza and pneumonia, or PNI. And so before COVID showed up, we had plenty of people dying from PNI, right, every week. Ann Suchat from the CDC said that influenza is evergreen. It doesn't go away. People die from influenza every week in the United States. Even though there's a season, even off season, people continue to die from it.
Yeah.
So what we saw in the first 15 weeks of 2020 is what you see in front of you. And that's PNI before COVID. COVID deaths aren't in here. COVID deaths have a different code. All right, so this outbreak is taking place, and along comes COVID, which is, well, that can happen. That can happen. There's no reason why you can't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had like two infections at the same time? You've ever had like a cut on your finger that hurts a bit, and a little bit of a cough? That's
well, yeah, sure.
two things. Yeah, two things at the same time, right? You
Pink eye and an ingrown toenail.
Exactly. So you can have two things
Where
at the same time.
Out?
This is not like a crazy concept. All right,
Syphilis
let's jump ahead to the next slide. Exactly. Now we're talking. Now I can tell where you've been hanging out. Back to Vegas.
Not me.
So back to Vegas. All right. So if we're going to talk about gonorrhea, we got to talk about the Ganges, and if we're going to talk about the Ganges, we got to talk about India, right? So the 2019 influenza season, according to the WHO. So the data that you see here on the top is from the WHO. This is the GISRS FluNet system. And what we see here is that in 2019, India had one heck of an influenza outbreak. These are influenza specimens in India, not deaths, specimens. Okay, that tested.
So what do you mean they
positive.
swab people and this was there, but they didn't die?
Right. So this is what you call surveillance. So this is where people go to the doctor, they're pretty sick, they get tested, and it tests, and these are the test results. And so when you see this in places like Australia and India at the same time, what you're seeing is an outbreak of influenza in the Southern Hemisphere in the summer months of 2019, June, July, August. That's what you're seeing here. All right, so it happened.
Isn't that unusual, though? Isn't flu?
No, it's their winter.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So June, July, August in Australia is when you go skiing in New Zealand.
Right. Because it's below the equator, I guess.
Exactly. Right? Exactly, Jason. Welcome to Geology and Geography 201. Yeah. All right, so back to India. So the thing that's remarkable about India, they have this really ruthless 2019 season, just like Australia. And by week 13 of 2020, influenza disappears. Look at that top chart. You see how it just like you get this big outbreak, this little thing, and then it's just gone. It's like, well, what happened there? How did that happen? So you have to look at that and then say, well, wait a second. Not only how did it happen, when did that happen? That happened on week 13. Well, so here's what we do. We now go to week 13. Now scroll down to those two charts below. And we say, well, in week 13, when influenza disappeared, how many people have died in India? Ooh, it's not that big a number, is it? How many people died in India and how many cases?
Less than 60.
It turns out less than 60 cases, fewer than 1,500, less than 60 dead, less than 1,500 cases in the whole country. And influenza's gone?
Yeah, that's weird.
Like that. Yeah, especially since the population of India and the population of China are just about the same now. They're neck and neck.
Gloria's with us in the comments on YouTube, says, thanks to John, our family was prepared for COVID and survived it. Thank you, Gloria. That's a great comment.
That's why I'm here. I mean, if I can save one person, that's made all this worth it. So, all right, let's go ahead to the next slide. What's the matter? You see something?
One person in Gloria's family, not immediate, didn't make it. Sorry about that, Gloria. Terrible.
Yeah, I mean, so again, what we've talked about, this spiral of silence. We've talked about the social pressure on professionals to not admit that they listen to or watch or follow the Howard Stern of our times, which is me, right? So not that I'm like Howard Stern,
Stern of
just
epidemiology.
meaning I'm the guy you don't want to admit that you follow, right? And yet these people have. And when you have a blue check mark, you don't have to admit that you follow people. You can follow people silently, so to speak.
Jimmy
secretly.
Dore doesn't respond to direct messages. I guess he's got 1 million people on there.
Yeah, that's the thing. But I'm so grateful that these people follow me, and
This has got to be
engaged
the
with-
doctor you were talking about that I said, who is
Yeah.
this? But is that actually her, or is that some warrior
Yeah.
from television? She's holding a sword.
I have no idea. What the hell do I know? So what I can tell you is I've interacted with Jay Bhattacharya. I've interacted with a couple of these folks, and as a result, things happen. I'm going to kind of roll this out and show you guys. So if you go to the next slide, what you'll see is I contacted was contacted by or got in touch with someone new this week, a guy by the name of Dr. Mark Changizi. I think I'm saying it right, Changizi. And he is a scientist who invented glasses for people who are colorblind. I don't know if you've ever had to take a test. Yeah.
I've heard of this. I'm very skeptical. I'm colorblind. I'd like to see his product.
Okay. And he makes glasses for people who are inserting an IV that allows you to see the vein, and that's called veno optics.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so he's going to be a guest on the show next week, and he's got a pretty big following. Another guy that I got a chance to interact with, who's going to be a guest on the show next week, is Professor Dave Cullen, Dr. Dave Cullen. He's the professor of organic chemistry at Cornell. And I guess he had a chance to hear me or see me on another podcast. And as a result of that, we started interacting on Twitter, and I invited him to come on the show. And the funny thing is that even though he's a professor of organic chemistry, he wants to talk about the Vegas shooting. So that's what we're going to talk about. So he's going to be a guest on Hypothetically Speaking next week. And so what happens is this group of people who are following me but are kind of quiet, they start to see people like Professor Cullen, Dr. Cullen,
talking to you,
show,
right?
Dr. Changizi, right? And they say, "Oh, I know those glasses. Like that was kind of a big deal when the guy."
Well, this is social verification for these bigwigs. If these other people will talk to you, then maybe it's okay.
That's exactly right. And so, Dr. Scott Jensen came back on the show after 2 years. You know what kind of guts
I think
that
he's
takes
got a
to
lot
do
of
it
confidence
twice?
in himself. He doesn't care what other people think about who he's talking to. If he thinks you have something to say, he'll talk to you.
And that's why I love him. It takes a different type of person to not succumb to this spiral of silence. And the fact that he was the guy who came out and said $13,000, $39,000, and they're telling us just say COVID, but we can't be certain that it is. And so when he broke that aspect of the story, that was kind of earth-shattering. And I remember seeing it on the news, right? It was on Fox News. He was on Fox News and a number of local stations reporting this. And I don't think anybody ever refuted it. So I don't think there was a conspiracy. He's a physician. So when people are willing to have these dialogues, I think that moves the needle a little bit. And so next week I'll have an opportunity to meet with 2 PhDs in various scientific areas. And when I meet with Mark Changizi, he's a specialist in color perception and stuff like that. So we're going to talk about the maps and the red.
I want to try his glasses. I'm red-green colorblind.
Well,
I'm skeptical.
Check it out. And all right, interesting.
And by the way,
skeptical. You're skeptical of the spectacles. Okay.
But the thing is, Dave Cullen here, this guy looks so much like Senator Black. Ask him if he knows that.
Doppelgangers? Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Let's jump ahead. I know we've only got a few more minutes, and I want to allow a couple minutes to maybe go to the chat and take some questions. This next document has been floating around on Twitter a little bit. This is the DARPA document that somehow was unclassified And it seems that a
DARPA.
whistleblower got their hands on this. And I can't tell if this is real or not. So, there's times when I wish that we had a ministry of disinformation that could tell me, is this real or is this not real? Or if I
They
could,
don't seem
I
to
guess
tell you the truth, though.
yeah, that's kind of the problem. So if I had like a chat GPT assistant here and I could turn to it like Siri and I could say, Siri, chat GPT, is this real or not?
But that
And
lies
she
too,
would,
Chat GPT.
well, you know what's interesting? I don't remember anybody doing a show on ChatGPT's bias
Other
before
than
us.
us.
And then
You're right. Then they
everybody
all
starts
did.
talking about the bias. Yeah. I mean, now it's like that's the topic. And there's something called ChatGPT Dan mode, which is like their darker
Well, they just
mode
came
or
out with
something like
4, and now it accepts
yeah.
plugins. They've just expanded it like crazy. And also, they said, remember we were talking about how you wanted it to pass the bar or something like that, and then it passed the bar. But they said that it was in the bottom 10% with ChatGPT 3.5. ChatGPT 4 just passed the bar in the top 10%.
Well, that means it's already better than Stephen Bess, which is great.
But that's
So,
more like the 1%. Now, wait a minute. This just
all right.
froze while it was zooming in on DARPA. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Give me DARPA.
Joy. Yeah. Big surprise
Notice it's
there.
2D.
I'm sure, of course. Oh, there you go. You get a little street
And
view.
does it say welcome to DARPA?
I don't know, but you got to get to the next slide because we have to show the on this next slide because this is the big reveal.
Okay.
This week, the FBI dropped a whole bunch of new information
This is crazy.
about Stephen Paddock and
He was
how
fascinated. Oh, and look, they did it on 3:30. Isn't that cool?
3:30, and there's a number of stories here. So this one's in Newsweek, and this is about his fascination with the Oklahoma City bombing. The next story you'll see is came out of let's see, who's Jessica Goodman at Cox Media Group.
Oh, working for Cox. I don't know this person.
No, but that's what I've heard. But apparently, that's where she works. She works for Cox.
Oh.
So FBI documents say Las Vegas shooter in 2017 was angry at casinos. Now we're 5.5 years since the event. The
Why do they
FBI
care?
closed the case, and 5.5 years later, they've got to come out with a release telling us he was angry at the casinos.
So why did he shoot the concert? Why not just walk down to the casino? You could shoot 1 million people in there.
Well, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So again, why is the FBI putting out crappy press releases now about things where they close the case? If it's case closed,
Yeah.
I mean, are we gonna get a John Wayne Gacy release next week?
But also, if it was like October 1st, people are like, oh, okay, what can we do for the news today? Let's do a, anniversary of, but why is this coming out in March?
it is bizarre. I can't understand it, and it's not. There's no there. There's no real material content that anybody's looking at and go, oh, okay, well then that explains everything. It doesn't explain any aspect of the shooting that we've been calling attention to, which I can't really get into here on this platform. But when we go in with our patrons, you're going to see one more slide, and then that's it. Washington Post is now saying, wait a second, Charles Ortel, Jason Goodman, John Cullen. Who? Go ahead, next one with the green thing. One more. There you go. Yeah. This is in the Washington Post yesterday.
How Russia turned America's helping hand to Ukraine into a vast lie. And so what do they say we're lying about?
We're going to take a look at this article because what this gets into is they're saying that all of this reporting about the Ukraine biolabs is Russian disinformation. It's like, well, my name's not Sergey, right? I'm not. I know.
But what about the contracts that you found? Why aren't they They don't want to address evidence. They just want to say that whoever is telling you about it is a conspiracy theorist.
Right. So they have no credibility as far as I'm concerned. So the question now is this Christopher Wray? Are these the agencies? Why are they up against the ropes? They're putting out stories to discredit our reporting on the Ukraine, to discredit the Vegas shooting. What is going on? right?
Well, we're going to have to break now, John, because we're out of time here on YouTube, but people will be able to join us for the main conversation on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and Subscribestar and Patreon/crowdsourcethetruth. Odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth and crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. Here on March 31st, last day of March, I am offering specially for Patreon subscribers, if you'd like to leave Patreon and go to Odyssey, I'm offering everybody a refund for February and March if you choose to do that from Patreon to Odyssey. Send me an email on truth@crowdsourcethetruth.org if you'd like to do that. We'll be back in less than 5 minutes for the sponsor exclusive segment. Don't miss it, and make sure you check out subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen or patreon.com/Iam.